Hi FlossTube, this is Nitya with Daybreak Stitchery, and I'm making my third FlossTube video. And it's been a busy month, not as much stitching as I would have liked to have done, but at least a little bit, and I have some new starts to show too, so here we go. So, my first one is, this is actually a whip. I'm going to do my whips first, but it's this one which I've shown before. And it's by 2x2 Stitch on Etsy, and I'm listing and linking everything below. So if you're interested, you can check it out. It's using DMC 550, and it's so pretty, right? That purple. I just can't get over how bright and what a nice contrast that purple is. So I've worked out most of this. Before I just had like probably this bottom section done. So I'd filled in this part, and I've added this pretty border to the side. This is called, 2x2 Stitch on Etsy. They do a funny thing where if you look for the name of the design, they've listed just a bunch of search terms. So it says like sampler, ornament sampler, carpet sampler. It has all these names. It doesn't have one single name. But when you purchase the pattern, it has a numbered name to it. So this is sampler 23. So that's kind of what I call it sampler 23. But I'll put a link below in case you want to link directly to it. I love this one. This is it's part of a design that has 4 squares, and I'm only doing 1. And then I'm taking some of the extra borders and things and just adding them in the way I want to. So this border is actually supposed to be on the outside of the 4 squares, and I'm just making it run along one side like that. So we'll see how it looks when it finishes. I'm not sure everything will end up flush together the way it's supposed to because I'm kind of taking bits and pieces, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so that's sampler 23 by 2x2 Stitch. So the next one is one of my favorite. These two are my 2 favorite things to stitch on, even though I haven't done much with them this month. But this one is Hygge Forest sampler. Looks like this. It's so cute, right? I don't usually do too many cutesy things, but I like these Scandinavian folk patterns. And this one is by Patterns Cross Stitch, which is a shop on Etsy. And, on Etsy, everybody already knows this, but if you check things off as favorites on Etsy, they'll keep you posted. They'll send you little alerts when things go on sale. So these cross-stitch patterns are like, sometimes they'll be $5 and then they'll come on sale for like $2.50. They're pretty affordable, but I'm just loving this. And I did one new thing, which is I started using some white in there too. And it does show, I don't know if with my lighting it'll show up necessarily, but like a lot of these bits are supposed to be filled in with white. So I've just started doing a little bit of that. So this, I don't stitch this enough, but it stitches up pretty quickly. Like you can do 1 or 2 motifs in just a couple of hours. And it'll be really nice. I'm thinking of framing this in, this I will finish in 2021. And I'd like to frame it in something white or gray maybe. And then I'm going to see if my sister I want to gift it to my sister. She likes these kind of neutral tones. So natural and neutral tones. So that's Hygge Forest sampler by Patterns Cross Stitch on Etsy. I'll link it below. Okay, so I have a few more whips. These were ones that I had maybe talked about as new purchases from my last video number 2, and I actually started them this month. So they're they're both by Owl Forest Embroidery, who I'm just in love with their threads and their patterns. They're so beautiful. And I'll show you one. This is the Swan Lake sampler. In Russian, it's Lebedinya Ozera. And it's been really good for my college Russian too, because I took Russian in college. And now when you order patterns and kits from them, it has it in both languages, in English and in Russian. So it's, the sampler is very pretty. It's got ballet dancers all over it. And then some natural motifs like swans, There you can see the iris that's coming in there. There's some different irises. There's I'll put a picture of it and a link to it too. And then I've just started the 2 dancers here. There's, I don't know if you can tell, there's a female dancer, her legs are there, and then there's a male dancer who's holding her up a little bit, and his legs are here. But I'm not stitching the bodies or the hair yet because I've ordered 2 shades of brown thread from Owl Forest. These threads, see how they're, I don't know if that'll come through. They're variegated threads. So they change color. So like, see how in his pants, they're changing color. And in the lily pads too, in the water too, everywhere. So I ordered 2 variegated threads from them. They're brown because I want to make their skin brown like me and my family. I want to gift this to my mom. She loves purple, and there are a lot of there are dancers who are going to be wearing purple in there too. So these blues and purples she's going to really like. So I'm waiting to I've quite a few threads coming from Owl Forest. I've ordered a lot of their variegated threads, and I'm going to check out those 2 browns. And then I think I also got a black, like a gray black for hair, because I don't usually stitch people because so many of the patterns are for white people or European people. So I don't know how to get the shading across when you change the skin color. So I'm thinking because there's not much skin shown on this, it'll just be like their faces and then their hands, because their outfits their arms are covered. I think just with the variegation in the thread, it should be okay. It'll look okay. So we're going to try that. And then one other project I started, also from Owl Forest, I just love them so much, is this autumn flowers. It's a square and it has all these floral motifs, and it's in Russian it's Osennye Tsveti. It's Osennye Tsveti. And Tsveti is the flowers part. So Osennye must be seasons. I didn't learn my seasons yet, but I will brush up on those, the vocabulary for that. So I did not get a kit for this one. I just bought a digital pattern and printed it out. And so I had to pick up fabric. So I picked up this, it's Exotic Orchid. It's like a purpley, like a pale purple. It probably looks gray. On the camera right now, it looks gray, but it's a purpley color. Exotic Orchid. It's Lugana. It's 32 count Lugana. And this is a very curious thing. So the Lebedine Ozera, the Swan Lake, it came on with, in the kit, it's a 32 count Belfast linen, and the stitches are so wide. I mean, it's still 32 count. These are both 32 count. This is Belfast. This is Lugana. On the Lugana, the stitches are really, really tight, so you can't see the fabric poking through. Let me show the flower part. You can't really see the fabric poking through the stitches. The threads completely cover each cross, but that doesn't happen on this one. And it's even though it's the hand-dyed threads, they are DMC threads, so I'm basically using the same threads. So the fabric is just so different. So I'm not sure I like that. That's the problem with some of these 32 counts. I feel like the coverage is not, it doesn't cover enough. But on this 32 count Lugana, it's perfect. It seems like a tighter weave somehow, even though it's also 32 count. I'm not sure what's going on. This will be very pretty. I'm using DMC. I didn't order the kit or the threads for this, so I'm just using the DMC colors. But the thread, like one of the ways that the threads would be nice. So for example, it'll be hard to see on this pattern. Here, this leaf, for example, is a maple leaf. And in the DMC color, it'll be a solid color. If I had ordered the variegated threads, the color they have for that is, it's got reds, it has burgundies, it has pinks, like all in one thread. So when you stitch with it, you would see all that color variegation. It would look a little bit more realistic. It has oranges too. But whatever. I didn't get the threads for it and I wanted to start it, so I went ahead and started it. Okay, so those were all my, my hair's getting frizzy. Those were all my whips that I had going from the last time. So I wanted to show you my new starts too, because I have a lot of them. I mean, I have a lot of new starts. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new starts. And I wanted to show you too, for So this is my third floss tube video. So I've been doing floss tubes since October. And I have been writing down all of the new starts that I want to do. This will show up backwards because I don't have mirror image on. I have 27 projects that I wanted to start between like October and then like for a year, for my first year of floss tube. So some of them I've started. This will show up backwards. Sorry about that. I don't have my mirror image. So I've noted like when I've started one, I've noted what fabrics I'm using and threads. I'm just trying to track it a little bit, but I have quite a few. Most of these, like they all say threads, because I have a lot of threads coming. There's been pretty big shipping delay, you know, with everybody shipping stuff over the holidays. So I have a lot of threads that haven't come in yet. So anyway, new starts. Okay. The first one was the one I was least excited about, but now that I've started it, it's beautiful and I love it. It is by Rosewood Manor. It's the Autumn Quakers sampler. So there you can kind of get a look at how the motifs look. This is on 28 count Cashel. So I'm doing 1/1. I'm making it tiny. Making tiny stitches. And I love it. It's so pretty, actually. I wasn't expecting this. And the one thing I am doing, if you look up Autumn Quakers on Instagram, if you look up the hashtag, you'll see everybody's Autumn Quakers. And the called for fabric is this doubloon shade of Cashel Linen. But I've switched it. I picked up both the patterns for both Autumn and Winter Quakers. They're both very pretty. And I picked up the call for fabrics, but I switched them. So this is actually this shade is called Dwarf. I'm not sure why. It seems kind of inappropriate, but whatever. It's like it looks kind of like skies. It's blue skies. And I thought that would be better for an autumn pattern. So it kind of looks like when I think of autumn, I think of like looking up at the trees changing color and the bright blue skies. So I thought that would be better. And then for Winter Quakers, I'm waiting for a variegated silk to come from Mrs. Sedas, and I was just going to do one color. Like instead of doing all the different color motifs, I was going to stitch them all in just one color variegated on this one. So we'll see how that goes. But so far I'm liking this, and it was a big surprise for me. I didn't think I would get. I've seen everybody stitching it, like Creatively Yours, Debbie at Creatively Yours. She's done a really beautiful job on hers. She must be, I think everybody's using the silks, so they're turning out really pretty. And then Always Amy has it finished. She finished and framed hers too. It's really beautiful. So I don't know why I had doubts about it. I wasn't super excited to start it, but now I'm enjoying it. I did not buy the silks that were called for. They were too expensive. I mean, these are still pretty pricey too, more expensive than DMC. But I've got the variegated floss from Valdani. So it's still Valdani, and it's still the same shades, just different floss, cotton floss instead of the silks. And the Rosewood Manor patterns, I don't know if they all do this because this is the first time I'm stitching with one, but they do not have DMC conversions. I think probably because they are all variegated like this, but DMC has variegated threads too. So I wish at least for some of them I could have gotten DMC, but whatever. We're going with that. Okay, the next one. This was a nice surprise, an unexpected new start. Okay, so on 1-2-3 Stitch, I'm sure a lot of you pick up fabrics from 1-2-3 Stitch, and they're really nice to get fabrics from because, like, if I pull out Autumn Quakers again, they serge the sides. Because all of these linens tend to fray on the ends. So they put serge stitching around the edge, so you don't have to worry about it fraying while you're working on it. Although they didn't do that with this one. But so anyway, I look for fabrics all the time on 1-2-3 Stitch. And over the holidays, I've been checking their clearance. So if you go to 1-2-3 Stitch's website and just type in clearance linen or clearance threads, their clearance items will come up, and they change those out somewhat regularly. And so I got this pink. pink fabric. It's by a French general, and it's just called solid pink. And it is not a stitching fabric, actually. It's a quilting fabric. It's a fat quarter for quilting. But it was just such a pretty pink shade. I thought, well, let me just get it and see what we can do with it. And then at the same, and it was only $1.78 on clearance. And then I also got these pretty, just not connected or anything. I just was looking at their clearance items, and I got these two pretty Gutermann threads. One is a jade, I don't know if the color, one is like a jade green. It's called Bluegrass officially. It's Gutermann 7760 Bluegrass. And the other one is a mint green. My light is too bright, probably won't show. It's Gutermann 7730, and this is Jade. And these were each $1. So not very expensive at all clearance. And when they came in the mail, I just thought, oh, these, like unintentionally, they actually look good together. So let me try. I'm going to try it. And I could, when I looked, if I take my glasses off, I can see the threads. Like I could see the squares to stitch it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try to stitch on this. So like I said, it's a quilting fabric. So it didn't have a count on it. But I tried counting it the other day, and it's definitely like between 50 and 60 count when you count out how many threads you're stitching over. And, it's turning out great. So what it is it's, a combination of two, holiday patterns from Modern Folk Embroidery, Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery. And it's Scandinavian Christmas Sampler is one of them. And then a winter border sampler is the other one. And I'm combining, I see what I wanted to do, because the thread count is so tiny and I have to take my glasses off to look at it and stitch on it. I didn't want to have something where I needed to keep checking the pattern. I wanted something very repetitive. So I thought, oh, this is going to be good for borders, because borders will have the same motifs going across the whole way. So if I can just do one, like when I did this top row, once I did the one motif, I could see how to repeat it. So I didn't have to keep looking at the pattern and move my eyes away from looking at the fabric. So I'm loving it. I think that bluegrass green looks really nice. It's a nice contrast. And because they were kind of Christmassy colors, I chose winter to do winter, something wintry with it. So an unintentional good find, and totally clearance, except for the patterns from Modern Folk Embroidery. Those, of course, I had to buy and pay for, but the fabric and threads were only $3 total. So that was a good deal. So I recommend, I pick up a lot of, like they just recently had on 123 Stitch, they had a beautiful pale, like a lilac colored linen for stitching. It was like a 32 count. And I picked up some of those. They were only like $2 or $3. So that's, building up the stash as we do. Okay. Next new start was because my first pack of silks came from Mrs. Sedas. This is Oxide. It's like a mix of yellows and deep greens. So pretty. And I got it because I wanted to stitch Jan Hicks's Narnia pattern, which is what this is. I was able to start it. And she stitches it with, her pattern calls for DMC threads, but she's trying it with this Mrs. Sedas Oxide, so I'm doing the same. So beautiful, right? So you don't have to really pay attention to what colors go where. It just naturally changes color. Sometimes, like if I know I've done a yellow bit here, when I rethread to do the next part, I'll maybe choose a part from the green. But I don't think too much about it. It just changes itself. And it's just one of my favorite things. I just love this. And silks are so easy to stitch with. Like when you stitch with cotton floss, I'm always getting things tangled and knotted. So I'm like probably like at least every 10 stitches, something's getting knotted up, or it's kind of rough to pull through the fabric. Silks just glide through. It's like butter, totally glide through. And I'll link it below. Jan Hicks, she has some stitch along videos for this project, so you can just see what hers look like when she's stitching with this Oxide. But even more important than that, she has a really good video on what to do when you first get your silk hank, because the silk threads, like, this is normally, like, when we order DMC, it comes on a little thing like this, right? It's very easy to control. There's not much. It's like 8 meters, I think, or how many? I don't remember how many yards are in this. 8.7 yards of thread are in here. So I just kind of pull. I don't even like put it on a paper cardboard skein or anything, or like a floss holder or anything. I just take it out of here. But with silk, it comes in a huge hank. It's twisted, and when you untwist it, it's like one big ring of floss. So she had her tip on her, she has a video on how to deal with floss, like how to get floss ready, silk floss ready to stitch with. She recommended that you take the ring, the hank, and you snip it into 3 sections so that you have 3 straight sections. And that's what I did. So it's keeping it untangled. It's very different from, let's say, if you're a knitter or crocheter, when you get a big hank of yarn, you have to untwist it, and then there's that big ring of yarn, and then you have to roll it into a ball because you need one continuous thread to knit or crochet with, and it is horrible. I just had to do that the other day, and it gets so tangly, and so I thought, oh great, I could ruin a lot of silk if I have to do that, but Jan said to just cut it up into snippets and then use it that way. So that was very easy to do. I love it. I'm getting more Mrs. Sedas. She's really nice. It's Raquel at Mrs. Sedas. She's out of Spain, and her threads colors are so beautiful. So beautiful. If you search for the hashtag Mrs. Sedas on Instagram, you'll see what everybody's doing with their Mrs. Sedas threads. But I'm doing this Narnia, and then on that doubloon, on this fabric, I have I'm going to see, I have to see what it looks like when it arrives, but I ordered a color called Hydrangea from Mrs. Sedas, and it's like very pale purples and blues. So I thought that's what I might stitch the winter Quakers from Rosewood Manor. I think I might stitch that using that. Anyway, Narnia, Jan Hicks. Okay, my next new start is a big one, and it's going to take me years to finish this one. And I have doubts about it all the time, but I'm just going to keep going with it. So it is Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers. So this is Jules from Long Dog Samplers. She's a funny gal. She has all these very intricate cross-stitch patterns, and she made one for 2020 called Pandemic. And there's a Facebook group. If you're stitching on this, you already know about this, but there's a Facebook group for everyone working on the project. And it's really interesting because people will work in their own motifs related to this year, the pandemic year, things that are meaningful or relevant to their families or their experiences. I think pretty much I'm just going to follow the pattern until I get some confidence about it. But I will show you what I have so far. So this is what it looks like so far. I'm still only on page 1 out of many, many pages. Let me open this up a bit. So that's what it looks like. And so the colors are individual DMC threads that I am variegating myself. And that's the bit where sometimes I have doubts about it. It looks good. I like the way it looks because it looks kind of like a variegated thread, right? The colors are changing, but that's me deliberately, like, I'm putting about 10 stitches in one color, then I'm switching it to another one. I don't know if you can see them. I have all these needles threaded each with a different color. So I'll just do a few stitches in one, end it, and then put in another one, end it. So it is a bit, I'm not being very thoughtful about like what color goes after what color. I do have kind of a sequence I'm using, but I break the sequence sometimes too. It's just the changing of the thread. If I had used a variegated silk or a variegated thread, I wouldn't have had to think about the color changing at all. I could just stitch a whole motif and have the one thread. So that's where I have a few doubts, but I think because it looks so nice, I'm going to keep going with it. And I've already put this alone represents many, many hours of stitching in December. So I think I'm going to just go with it. I don't want to start again. But it's like the Facebook group is funny because we all think the same way. Like when you're getting ready to start a big project, you just are so hesitant to settle on any colors or fabric. The fabric I was pretty sure about. This is Vermeer. Access is by Access Commodities, Legacy Linen, and it's Vermeer blue. That I knew I was going to stitch on this blue. I just didn't know what threads to use. But everyone's so doubtful, and it's just full of posts of really beautiful projects. But it's a common kind of thread where everyone's like, "Oh, I've stitched like almost page 1, and I don't know if I like what I'm doing." And there are many. I mean, I think there are like 20 pages of this. Let me see. 20 pages of pattern. So, I mean, whatever you do, you have to really love it for a long time because it's going to take forever to do. There are the Facebook group is really great because right now there are people who've stitched it the whole year when it came out at the beginning of the year. So people are finishing it now. So you're seeing all the finished projects and they're really beautiful. People are doing a really beautiful job with that one. So I think even though it's a little bit time consuming, it just looks so good. So I think it'll be worth keeping going with that. Okay, so another new start. I actually have 2 patterns that I started by Ink Circles. Long Dog samplers and Ink Circles. I've known about them for years and I've just wished I could do patterns with them. So now it's by joining Flosstube and kind of pushing me to do more stitching that I've been like, okay, I'm going to handle some of these big patterns. So this first one is Forests of Sumatra by Ink Circles. Sorry, everything's going to show up backwards because I didn't turn on mirror image on the video, but whatever. So it's, I want to show you this because I think this is so cool. So she's done a pattern based on this old textile from Indonesia. So she's picked this up from, I don't remember where she saw this, but she's adapted the design. She's created a design based on this old stitching, old stitching in this textile. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful pattern. And so it's trees. It's a whole bunch of very decorative trees. So I started my first tree. It looks like this. And it's on 40 count mallow linen. I don't know if you're seeing all the greens, I think, but this is my first project using Sulky thread. And this is Sulky 4051. It's called Forever Green. And it's very pretty because it's from their blendables line. So it has all different shades of green blended in it. It's got at least 2 or 3 different shades of green, like an olivey green and then a deep, deep green and then a bright green. So I like that. That variegation comes through in the stitching. So I think that's going to work. What I also did, though, is I picked up 3 more greens from Sulky. Sulky threads are really affordable. They're only like $1.35 or something. And they had a really big Black Friday sale, too. So that was a good test. So just look out for sales from them. And it's people like stitching with Sulky. I'm on the fence. I'm not sure yet. For this one, it's working. People like it because this is 50 yards of thread. So remember the DMC skein has 8.7 yards. So it's a lot more thread and it's thick enough where you don't have to double it up. So when you stitch with DMC threads or other thread, like my silk floss and all that, you usually have to keep 2 strands together to have the thread be thick enough to cover the fabric when you stitch with it. But these technically, one strand of this equals 2 of DMC. I think it's okay if you have a tightly woven fabric, if you have a fabric with a high stitch count. Like this is 40 count and it's covering up the fabric pretty well. I cannot imagine, like I would never use this on like that 32 count Belfast linen because you would just see the fabric behind it. Wouldn't cover. I don't think this would cover the stitch. You'd have to use it for something with a very tight weave. And I'm also, the other thing, like when I stitch with two strands of DMC, So you have the 2 strands, and you can lay those 2 strands flat on the fabric. So it can cover, that 2 strands can cover more space on the fabric than if you had one really thick strand. I feel like that would just lay thicker. I feel like it wouldn't cover as much space. So I'm not 100% convinced on these yet, but for the right fabric, I think it could work. I picked up 3 more green shades just in case I want to make some of the trees different, different trees in the forest having different shades. So we'll see if, what I do with that. But I like it so far. See how it's got these very decorative patterns? That was in the original textile that she designed it off of. It has these like curly Q kind of patterns. It's going to be very pretty. I'm excited about it. I'm noticing something that looks uneven at the bottom. I have to check that out. Okay. And then I've started a lot this month. I don't know how I found the time because school was actually really busy. I'm a teacher and we end our semester before winter break, and we were working right through Tuesday of Christmas week, Tuesday of last week. So we had a very busy end to the semester. So don't ask me how I found time to stitch, but I did. Now we're on vacation and it's really nice. I have lots of time to stitch. This is by Galliana Designs, which is a really great designer. Galliana Designs is also behind the Bookcase, which is a design that's floating around, and it's going to be part of Shiloh at Cross Stitch MD, and she's working with someone else, and I can't remember who it is. They're doing a stitch along in 2021 on the Bookcase from Galliana Designs. But this is Christmas Sampler, and it's very pretty. It has just kind of all different motifs all over it. And I'm using some random grays, greens, pinks, and reds from a hand dyer from Etsy called Amaranthine Stitch. And I'll show you some threads from hers. They're very pretty. See the variegation? And again, this was a random matchup. Like I had just seen her site and she was having a sale, so I picked up some threads. And then I thought, okay, I ended up picking mostly reds and kind of these wintry colors, these Christmassy colors. So then I thought, okay, this would be great for this Christmas sampler. It's very pretty. There's a little bit of repetition. This is going to be like a big snowflake here. And then there's all kinds of other stuff. There's like a window and all the different books, book spines with some Christmas books on them. And it's pretty. This is Embroidery Linen, 36 count, smoke blue. I love this color. It's like a gray, it won't show on the video, but it's blue, like an aqua blue, but it's also got tinges of green. It feels like it's got a little bit of more the greeny side of blue. So that's been a nice one to stitch. This fabric, this Edinburgh linen is so nice to stitch on. And then the thread, I'm pretty happy with the threads. I don't have any plans for how, like what parts will be which colors. I'm just kind of picking up a color and going with it and seeing how it turns out. And then the last new start is another ink circles pattern, and it's another Sumatra pattern. It's Squirrels of Sumatra. And it's got these 2 little guys here. I enjoy stitching squirrels. Who knew? I didn't know that would be a thing, but here we are stitching. Like a lot of my patterns have squirrels in them, and a lot of cross stitch patterns have animals, birds, foxes, and squirrels. So I kind of enjoy that. I do enjoy looking at squirrels around the neighborhood too. We have a lot of them in our tree that we see outside our apartment. So this one, I'm going to adapt this pattern a bit because I chose a smaller fabric. Everything I'm doing is so big. It's on big fabric. I wanted to have something small to do too. So this one is just let me see what fabric this is. It's barnwood. It's Newcastle linen, and the shade is called barnwood. And it's like a dark brown, actually. It might not come across in the video. But I thought that'd be great because if we're doing kind of a literal kind of adaptation of thinking of squirrels, the tree, kind of this dark would represent the wood from trees. And then I was picking floss that would represent the color of the squirrels. And I settled on, again, a sulky thread. It is butterscotch. And it looks like this. It has different golds and browns in it. It won't come across from this, my light. But it's turning out pretty. It's I'm doing 1/1 on this. It's 40 count. Am I doing 1/1? Oh no, I'm not. I think I'm doing 1/2. So 1 sulky thread over 2 stitches. But it is 40 count barn wood. And that butterscotch thread was from their blendables line again. So that's been okay to stitch on. I haven't done much with it. So what I will do, this fabric, because see, it's short and I'm doing it lengthwise. So I think probably what will happen is I will get through like this part of the pattern, this top part of this box, and then maybe these borders here. I may just do this part of it. Or I might keep going as far as I can, and then just wherever it gets cut off, it gets cut off, and that's it. And I'll do the bottom border up there. But it won't be wide enough to fit all of this. But that's okay because the patterns are so busy. I feel like you could just chop it off anywhere, and it would look okay. So that is Squirrels of Sumatra. Okay. So those are all the new starts. And that would be, if I was looking at my list, let me look at it. My list of new starts from December, starting in December now, and then I want to go through 2021. I have started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 27 that I wanted to start. I would like to have some finishes too. I mean, my previous whips are not on this, so that the 2 that I showed right at the beginning are not on this. So I have actually a couple more. I'm hoping to finish something. I mean, I put a couple of things on here that are really small. Like I have a small pattern from Owl Forest that's coming in. It's pomegranate Quaker, and that looks like it's just going to be on a small fabric. So I'm intentionally starting some smaller things with the idea that maybe I'll actually finish something in 2021. So I'm going to real quick show you some fabrics and threads I picked up. I'm waiting for a lot of threads. I have Silks for You coming. I have Mrs. Sedas coming. I have some DMC coming too. And then I have, I think it's Stitchy Stuff Co. There's a shop on Etsy, another gal who hand dyes threads. So I'm waiting for threads from all those, but I can show a few things that I picked up for just future projects. So I picked up, these were all on sale at Michael's had a big, like, you know, they have these 40% off sales. I just thought this DMC was pretty. It's $45.17. And I think it's from their colorist line. It is. But it's got some reds and greens in there that are just pretty. And I don't know what to do with it yet. I'm going to keep it and think about it. I like it. It's kind of a mint green with some different reds and pinks in there. So I picked up threads. And then I have I have 2 fabrics. This is 30 count pink clay linen, and it's a pale pink fabric. This was another clearance item on 123 Stitch, and I've been gathering these kind of pale beiges and pale pinks. This one is a 32 count nougat. This one wasn't on clearance, but this one was. And those lilac ones that are coming, because I want to do, Owl Forest has a stitch along that they just did called 100 Owls. And it's just a huge thing full of different owls. And, Amy loves toads. She's a floss tuber. Hers is really beautiful because she chose a green hand-dyed fabric to stitch her owls on, and they really pop out. All of the owls have these like browns and even like snowy kind of colors and some blue too. So it was a pretty fabric. So I'm choosing pale pink to stitch some of those owls. I'm not going to do the whole thing, the whole 100 owls. I'm just going to choose, there are a few motifs there that are particularly pretty. And again, just with the intention of having some smaller projects to do. I've saved some fabric for that. Then the only other thing I have to show is I have fabrics ready for all the stitch alongs I'm going to do in 2021. It's almost January 1st, and all these new patterns will come out January 1st. So one is again, Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery, he's doing a 2021 stitch along. It's called Fruits of Plenty, and the pattern is beautiful. Parts of it, there are these bands in it where you're doing the negative stitchings. You're stitching the background and leaving the fabric to show through on the motifs. So I'm doing that on 25 count ash rose Lugana. And the colors I'm going to use, so he has two ways you can do the pattern, just in one single color thread, or you can use two colors. So I'm using two. I'm using smoke gray. My colors will not show up well on my video. And the cinnamon color. And that's going to be against this ash rose. So it'll be enough of a contrast, I think. Smoke gray looks like a kind of purpley gray. This is Sulky 1240. Cinnamon looks more like a rust, like a light rust orange. And that's Sulky 568. So I'm going to try it on there. I'm a little concerned about coverage of the thread, but once I'm just excited to stitch it because I'm enjoying the modern folk embroidery patterns on those sampler borders I'm doing. So I think the Fruits of Plenty looks really pretty. I'm excited to stitch that one. So I have the fabric and threads ready for that. The other one is, I had mentioned Galliana Designs, and there's a really lovely pattern called the Bookcase. It's a decorative bookcase, and it has books with decorations in them and a picture frame and plant and different things. Shiloh from Cross Stitch MD is doing that one as a stitch along in 2021. And so the pattern is already available. It's not a mystery or like a surprise pattern like a lot of these are. You can get it already. So I am using, this is 38 count from Access Commodities. It won't show through. It's kind of like a brownish color. It's a tan color. It's called Wild Honey. And it's a tiny, tiny stitch count. But I've ordered a bunch of variegated threads from Stitchy Stuff Co. on Etsy. And I'm waiting for the threads to come in. So I won't, even though the pattern and the fabric are ready, I won't be able to start it very soon until the threads come. I'm also going to do the 2021 Mystery Stitch Along by Linens and Threads. And I've picked up this at Michael's. I got this box of DMC. It's their anniversary collection. It has beautiful shades in it. So I picked out these shades here to use on the Mystery Stitch Along. And it's called Talavera, which is a pottery tradition from Spain, and you can find it in Mexico too, but it's beautiful ceramic pottery with mostly white and blue designs, but it has like bright pops of greens and oranges. So that's what I'm using for that. I'm going to put it on this corn tassel, Access Commodities. It's a light pale yellow fabric. And then last one, I'm doing the Virlanden Stitch Along by Quiltify on Etsy. And I'm using, I have this fabric that I had in my stash. It is mocha linen, 32 count. It's by Weeks Dye Works, and I'm going to use it because I have it, but I'm not trying to buy stuff from Weeks Dye Works because they have a thing where they are being resistant on changing the name. They continue to use Confederate Gray as a color name for their products, for their threads, and for their fabrics. And I don't understand. So there have been a lot of people from the stitching community, Flosstube community, who've been contacting them to just say, hey, would you mind change? Like, this is inappropriate now to be continuing the legacy of this. And there's no response from them. So I don't think I'm not going to be buying products from them. This is such an easy change. I don't understand the resistance on that. I have this in the stash, so I'll use it, but I will not advocate for buying stuff from them. There are so many other brands you can use. I'm using this Coloris 4514 on that one. It's the Virlandis sampler from Quiltify. Sal, I'll link it below. And it's all these Virlanda patterns, and he's going to release like 3 motifs a month. But it's nice because you can pick and choose how many you want to do. You can do the whole thing, which is enormous, or I'm going to make mine smaller. That's a 17 by 26 fabric. So there we have it. have a lot going on here. So I'm excited. I've been following a lot of you on Instagram. I love the FlossTube community. Everybody's so active and does some cool things. So hoping to just see what everybody has going on for 2021. I didn't even get to talk about WhipGo, which is kind of you can look up the hashtag. I'll link it below. It's a bingo for stitching. And there are 2 numbers called every month. So you try to do the 2 things that you have on your bingo board for it. So anyway, thanks for watching. If anyone watches, hope to see you soon.